I mentioned that Fintech Galaxy is a crowdsourcing platform. Now we crowdsource 3 different things. Number 1, we run hackathons and innovation challenges. So we go work with banks, come up with innovation challenges, and then we invite startups to compete and find solutions for these innovation challenges. That could be, using artificial intelligence in treasury or anything like that. And then we work with startups in helping them create their own brand and speak at venues and raise funds and do business development. So we work closely with them. And the third thing, which we are launching on October 31st, is actually the talent crowdsourcing. So we're creating a platform where you can go and buy on-demand time from experts like these. So we are actually, we sit down and we work with startups all the time. We understand them, we know what makes them tick, we know their trouble at home, everything.
Was it an ICO and non-money?
No,
okay.
We went the traditional route of VCs and...
Right.
How dare you insult the crypto king?
So we are Sarwa, and what we do is we are an online platform for investment advisory. Basically, I don't know if you're familiar with the term robo-advisors, but that's what we do. We're also a hybrid model, so we don't only rely on technology, but we have also the human element, because we believe that this is truly very important, especially in the region, to always have that personal connection with the clients. And like you just mentioned, we just closed the round of investing with the top VCs from the region, but also we had 500 startups from California.
So funding was the second most difficult thing. Did you have problems opening a bank account?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So that resonated with us actually when you said that this is one of the first issues that startups face.
I'm actually working with the Chamber of Commerce, and this is one of the key issues that we need to address, is how can we make it simple for people to open a bank account, let alone get on to the next level. Kasha, what about your company, sir?
Before I talk about my company, shall I comment on the point you made about how can we help people open a bank account?
Yes, of course.
Because that is pretty much what we are working on in a nutshell. So the name of the company I'm representing is Money Mall. We are building a product that will help people manage their finance in most effective way, and that will help solve the issue of thin file, which is what we are talking about. It's not that banks do not want to open a bank account for the consumer, because they cannot make effective underwriting decisions. So how can we help financial institutions to make the best decisions so we can solve the problem of underbanked?
I'm Saika and I'm from Searchy. We're a talent acquisition platform. We launched earlier this year. And we're utilising artificial intelligence in a big way. We created our own avatar, which will look at microfacial analysis and really make a big impact on the hiring side. So we're in 6 countries, and we're looking to disrupt the horrible talent problem that everybody seems to have. And I'm so glad you mentioned people and education, because I was at KHDA earlier today, and I actually want to take away the CV altogether. My goal is to actually give people give wildcard candidates to companies based on culture, values and needs, and try to sort of really represent people with potential. So right now we're matching on culture, values and needs and skills, but time and time again employers actually need to change the way they're hiring. That's why they're not finding the people.
Brilliant, what an amazing response.
It's very interesting, because I review about 300 to 500 startups a year to look at from an investment point of view.
Right.
The one thing most of them miss, and I've actually heard all 3 of them address here, is that they're talking about regional problems. Because what happens is, if you look at the investment or even the startups that happened, the trend over the last 5 years, a lot of people were setting up what were duplicate businesses. They wanted to be another Uber, they wanted to be another Twitter, they wanted to be another Snapchat, in that like. Mm-hmm. But they never took care of the local demographic or regional issues that would contextualize actual problem solving. And that's actually really refreshing to hear that the 3 of them have actually looked at regional issues and addressed them to actually do a problem, because then people like me would say, yes, it's relevant and we want to invest. So I'm not surprised that they're sitting here today. That's fantastic.
Super. She is the chairperson of Abdul Latif Jameel Finance. for the region. So and she's in Dubai, fresh off the banana boat. She's been here like a week. So
fresh target.
The fresh target, exactly.
Fresh target for you. Yeah.
So, Nilofer, what sort of issues do you have, because you're in the finance space and you've seen a plethora of people here, and how can they engage with an organization like you to help you disrupt or transform and move to the next stage of the world game?
I come from the consumer finance world, mainly the auto finance. Maybe you've heard like Toyota Financial Services, Volkswagen Financial Services. I have worked with in all of them for many years. So I think the main stopper in our development is banks. You know, we work through banks. We are not. Some of us are banks in Europe. We have banking license, and some of us do not. So we work with the help of the banks. We reach the customer. The customer comes to auto showrooms. They buy the car. We just answer their credit needs in a second because we don't use even humans. We know car credit very well, but we want to, like in Turkey, we had this idea to build cooperation, like fintechs, find a fintech platform, and just let the consumer choose his own bank and his account and saving. But the regulation is the number one showstopper everywhere.
So let me throw that back in a different way to a group of people. How can you address her needs, knowing the compliance issues? How can you help to transform and disrupt?
I think going back to what you said,
and,
right?
And blow it up.
Beg for forgiveness later, do
Yeah,
first,
no,
right?
Exactly.
I think that's the first thing you got to do, correct?
So the thing is, we are working as we speak on a product called Withaq. And Withaq is basically a product that is automating the end-to-end service of issuing what we call sukuk. Sukuk are what we call Islamic bonds, basically. So it's a very heavy legal product, basically, to issue. And it's basically in the terms of financing. How do you finance projects? But it's the same idea. You can use it, to finance a car loan or whatever it is. And the fun thing about it, we don't use banks at all in the middle. So 0 banks in there. It's directly you and the consumer, which saves you a lot of cost, a lot of issues there, and brings up the efficiency. And we have that product. We are doing a POC for it with the Court of the Future out of Dubai, because they want to see the legal aspect of it. We're working with Clifford and Chance as well. They're one of the top 5 law firms there to automate the process.
In the world.
Yeah. So they automating the whole process in there. And I think those kind of applications will help companies like Abdul Latif Jameel or any other companies that deal with basically consumers directly to bypass banks. Sorry if anybody from the banking industry. I'm used to be.
No, we saw 90% of the jobs are gone, so game over.
They don't like me at all, actually. Banks. No, seriously, they tell me that to my face.
No, but you can set up you can connect that platform to an alternative credit lending source.
Exactly.
So going back to, there's a startup in Africa called Tala.
Yeah.
And Tala raised $30 million in their second series round, and Chris Saka and all these sorts of people invested. And what they did was they were an automatic scrubbing system that, as a user just launched the app, it automatically scrubbed your profile to give you a credit scoring on their terms that a bank could lend to.
Right.
And on the basis of that, they found that the return on the micro lending that they were doing was so efficient, it was 99% returns.
Wow.
Only 1% of their loans were coming back. They stopped taking money from credit organizations. They raised the 30 million to start funding people on their own. So once you get to a scale, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Yalla Compare or Compare It For Me or whatever they've changed their names to now.
Yeah.
Creating their own funding of sourcing once they've got to a point for venture capital money to chase into it. So I think the smart contract way of eliminating the need for a repetitive process to capture a wider audience is on point. Backed by a use case that could then do alternative lending or finance from venture capital or other institutions may present itself to actually just fast track it. But you've got to reach that threshold.
Thank you. Wonderful answer. She has a battle for talent. What do you do? What advice do you give to her through your organization? What should she be doing?
Don't put yourself through it. So basically, we give you access to sourcing, validating. We have a global network of freelance recruiters. who source for talent anywhere in the world. They give you the top 5 candidates that have been interviewed by our artificial intelligence, and it's set by your criteria. So you set your culture, your values and needs, and the skills, and she will interview live questions and process all of that data in 10-15 minutes and give you a percentage match. So she will say it's 86%. We just did our first deal with Etihad, and they hired from the first time they interviewed, because we did all the interviewing and everything, presented interviews, from them actually physically interviewing the person themselves. 1 interview, 1 assessment, an offer was made in 1 month. It's the fastest they've ever hired.
Tinder for businesses.
But
Tinder for business. Is it Tinder for business? That's what it sounds like, right?
I didn't hear that.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like.
But
That's
that,
happened fair minutes.
No,
Yeah,
but actually,
it's
the question here:
Yeah.
how
I
would
think
you
it works.
teach the machine what skills you're looking for jobs that are not existing, for
Yeah.
skills that we don't know?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so this role with Etihad, brand new department, I didn't even understand the title when it came through, it was this long, right? So we kind of go into the type of qualities they're looking in the person rather than focusing on the skills. They knew that they had to have some kind of data science interest and some kind of understanding of numbers, right, and science. So it's almost like we're moving away. We're focusing more on the potential. They have to have some kind of foundation in something, but 68% of the match was purely on the fact that this person had the potential to develop this whole new department for them.
because the point is extremely relevant, and AI is almost as good, or it's only as good as the quality of data that we put into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So that's the issue number 1. Number 2 is the ethics and the values and the morals are with us, not with an AI. AIs have
For
been
now.
sorry, sir. For now, yeah, for now, at least for a while. And with my multiple intelligences, I think we're going to get the
In
lead
an hour
going.
from now, Muhammad will come up with something.
I know. So you got that. Now, what's happening this is happening in the US. Amazon doesn't deliver to a certain place. Banks are not lending in other places, and the AI is making a decision. 86%, maybe they are right, but what about those 14%? And that is where the human element comes in. So, how can you just eliminate that human element?
It's a people business. Ultimately, recruitment is a people business. You have to still get a feel for the person in person. What we're doing is cutting down the months. I'm shocked at how long the recruitment process, like there's jobs that have been open for a year, right? So we're cutting down that horrible process where I call it the black hole. It's like the dread, like, oh, I have to hire this person. It's never like, I've never met anyone who says, I love recruiting, I love interviewing. It's almost like they like it when they've identified the person. So we're just trying to get there first. So we're utilizing artificial intelligence right now at that part. Humans are at the beginning and at the end, right? And we're still not replacing. So you know when you get a gut feel when you interview someone, you're like, I get a gut feel there's something that's off here. What we're saying is we don't have to think about it. We give you a whole report of thinking style, working relationships, and how they are in the office.
Here.
So my question is, the AI analyzes the facial expression. What if I'm on my bad day?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it analyzes not just that.
I will go to the
It's game over.
Push the interview to another day.
It's the content.
Actually, in Lebanon, you will find them all looking like you.
Actually, really imagine this scenario.
But it's number.
Imagine this scenario. We are working on a pilot with the Court of the Future to have AI basically trial people, to give you a verdict.
Yeah.
Not only to hire or fire, but
do
this is
it.
like to give you a sentence, whether you go 2 to 3 years to jail or not.
Oh wow.
So
But
that would be
actually
Minority
speaking about
Report.
Sarwa, I had email conversations with Mark for more than 2 months until finally I said, please,
This is
can
Mark
we meet?
Beer. He's head of the.
No, Mark, my co-founder, my
I'm
partner.
sorry, big one.
Mark Shahan.
Yeah, Mark.
Mark Shahan, he's the co-founder. And I was waiting with the IFC and waiting for this guy who's taking Sarwa into, and then a kid comes and I was like, sorry, I don't have time for you. I'm waiting for someone called Mark.
He's growing a beard now. He looks much
He's such an ageist.
Because I am wired to meet CEOs who are bankers, ties, I don't know, I mean, like basically. And then this kid in jeans and
Being stereotyped here.
in 5 minutes, he stole my heart. Like the guy is super smart and so human. As much as his product is AI, he's so human.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating, the story, the challenges, what he's doing. He could barely sit. he was like this,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And the whole team, by the way, like Jad and they're all. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Then you go see the bankers. You know, have you met the chief digital officers at banks?
Yeah.
Very.
Okay.
No comment.
They're great people. If they're watching, we love
We
you.
almost like you guys.
Yeah. How they communicate, I have no idea. With startups.
But again, to add to that, we've noticed, so we are a robo-advisory, right? We use technology, we use algorithm to assess the risk profile and the client and so on, and we would recommend based on that. We don't do anything, it's the technology all through. But then we noticed that people are still very reluctant to deal with technology, right? They want this human interaction, they want that human face. So that's why now we're actually increasing the number of our financial advisors, because every time we have a client, they're like, okay, great, but who can I talk to? What if something happens? Can I pick up the phone? Like it's very difficult right now to get to that point where we're just saying, okay, artificial learning or intelligence or whatever you want to learn, it's going to take it all and that's it, everything's fixed. People need to still interact with people.
Yeah,
So
for
it's
now.
good to kind of combine both and rely on technology when it comes to solving certain issues, but adding that human element is always needed.
That's okay, that would be really great. I mean, we are working on something called hypercloud.
Yeah.
A hypercloud is basically a virtual influencer. It's a persona that sits on the internet. It doesn't have an actual existence. And you look at it and you feel like it's an actual human being. You follow it on Instagram, it has millions of followers, it's advocates for brands, it has its own, like, I don't know, she's a DJ, we have her.
Don't teach Brian this one because
No,
then
we
she'll be
will.
dangerous with this.
Actually, it is actually the first virtual influencer after the MENA region, and I think, linking her up with an AI at the end could help her, be more personal. I think.
Indeed. So, Celeste, you have a question? Yes. Can you speak up, please? Yeah. No, you can sit, but you can speak up.
My question is, I can rely on AI for recruiting first. I'm sure that will be the right first. How can you judge the chemistry? Because I'm going to work with first.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah.
I can understand it. Now, tell you this person, I think the movement of AI, that it is true or not, that way, that the Portuguese this, they will
Yeah.
be doing this. So this chemistry.
Yeah.
I would not give up. The
No.
I need to see this person and see the energy or the aura. I don't sound refined. That's the basic, but I think that's missing. How do you?
I understand your point, and I'll tell you how far away I was from AI. 2 years ago, I remember hearing something in San Francisco about what was happening with tech and AI and all of this. I said it will never touch recruitment. It will never touch our industry, never touch my industry, because I go and meet my clients, I go and meet my candidates, I go and screen. I can't replace that. Now I'm watching a video back of someone in LA who's doing an interview in the morning, and one of the questions is, if you're president for the day, what would you do? Where would you travel? You see the buzz. You see how they're passionate about answering. The interview is live. You can kind of gauge something, and then you still meet them. We're not replacing the need to meet, and you put them through your process. Instead of doing 4 interviews, you probably do 1 or 2.
So can I build a compromise?
Yeah.
My colleague, Jenny Young, she's working on holoportation. So effectively, you can send a hologram to do the interview rather than going in individually. So you are sort of not getting the chemistry, but at least you're getting the interview. I mean, so that's probably the next level of development. Kashav, you've been very silent. Can you?
Yeah.
You're saying now, what the hell are these dudes up to, right?
Right, so let me tell you a story. So I've started using AI, machine learning, NLP, deep learning, you can name it, few years back. And one thing I've learned, if you use the technology in the right portion, at the right place, that's when you get the best value out of it. So we do use machine learning, we use AI and all that fancy jargon, but in a different way. So our product is pretty simple. And in 15 years working with 6 banks, starting few businesses, what I've learned, if you keep things simple, this is when you increase the probability of success. So that's what I would say. I think use the technology at the right place, in the right portion.
Super. Final couple of questions. Well done. Yeah. So we need to start finding that balance in some way. Last couple of questions, and then we can start wrapping up. Yes, Rehan.
I'm not against technology, artificial intelligence, and all this disruption.
Yeah.
about solutions, if we talk about replacing jobs, we talk about, basically sacking people. So what is the strategy here? What's the alternative for these jobs to be replaced, people losing jobs? So what do we have to place as a strategy?
Upskilling.
I think first of all, you're not going to see an eradication of jobs overnight. You're going to see a gradual erosion. Nothing happens in the blink of an eye. As technology, as quick as it can be made or adopted, there's an adoption point which happens. And what will happen is certain jobs in certain industries will erode. So if I'm a lawyer, doing a mutual NDA will become automated as a contract because it's actually quite a simplified process and AI can do a replicant of that job. But a lawyer's job will not disappear overnight.
Yeah.
So maybe his skill set from doing NDAs can be concentrated on doing other jobs as well. So maybe he might focus on a core while the generic parts of his jobs will erode away. So he can develop different skill sets. But even every industry has its own erosion points and retooling points. So some people have to gradually learn sets quicker than others, and that's where we'll have to focus on. So that's what will happen is people will have to adjust to their skill sets, and I think there's enough of a roadmap over the years that you'll be able to see what skill sets you need to focus on that will filter back down into different education classrooms, different vocational sets which we will focus on. I think you'll probably see the number of college graduates dipping after a certain point if they're not in a specialized field, because they'll actually become entrepreneurs who will hire people who want these skill sets. So AI is not, Skynet's not coming overnight.
No.
It is coming, much like people thought that cryptocurrency would replace everybody. It's not replacing it overnight, but it's never going to go away, right? It's evolved into, say, for example, stablecoin. Stablecoin in places like Turkey is becoming extremely relevant because of the fluctuation in currency. So each place has a start and an evolution, but it's coming, but it's not panic time just yet.
Actually, a quick comment on that. I work with a couple of universities in the region, advising them in creating new curriculums, basically new degrees.
Yeah.
And this is part of being involved so much in whatever happening with technologies, different technologies, and what they're doing to the job market overall. And as you see it, it's always a balance. Whatever you destroy, you are creating something new, and that something new will need people to understand how to operate that.
Correct.
We are eliminating the things that don't really require much of a human level interaction. We as people, we have that unique element basically that we can bring to the game. AI could make most of the math out, but to make that sensible decision at the end, you need that educated person to make that. The other thing is, for example, smart contracts. Now we work, as I said, with the court of the future and with lawyers with us, and they're not scared of losing their jobs completely because they will shift from just being a normal attorney or a lawyer into being this coder lawyer, where they actually create that code into those smart contracts.
I started with this right at the beginning. We're going through this transition decade. So between now and 2030, there's going to be massive transition and transformation. A lot of people will lose their jobs, but we need to retrain. The only difference between the past and now is speed. So we need to work faster, we need to respond quicker, we need to adapt immediately, we need to pivot very, very fast, and then become more and more and more human. So I'll end, yes, ma'am.
Okay, when we started, I posed one question. Why is this region not catching up with the global tide?
Yeah.
And I want all of us to use the Walt Disney kind of strategy where you go really crazy with your mind, okay? So let's assume that we are the board, okay, of the MENA, which is a company. So MENA region is a company and we are the board of directors. So you've got the startups, you've got the investors, you've got the crazy dudes who I don't know what they do. You've got the HR, you've got the bankers, you've got the regulators here because we're keeping everyone under control. What needs to be done? Someone please give me some idea because I keep going in circles. What needs to be done?
I think it's coming. I think the region is on the right track, right? We have more incubators, more accelerators. We're working, so we are actually regulated. We got the license and now we're graduating from the license. So even the regulators, not you, but the real ones, or the ones out there.
Pretty real.
The old ones, the traditional ones, they're actually now starting to realize they need to work with all these startups, with
Yeah.
all these disruptive industries to actually get there, because you can't inhibit growth, right? You have to enable it, and you have to work closely with them. So it's slowly getting. We are almost 10 years behind the rest of the world around that time, but it's getting there. But I think we need more crazy.
But
I don't think we are 10 years behind
No.
from a technology innovation point of view.
Not a
Actually,
technology, but from a lot of other
Yeah, we
areas.
have done stuff here. It's some of them it's not implemented out there yet. For example, the shifting of the whole Atlantis in Jumeirah. We were the first to shift them into a full cashless environment with the Lucid Pay and blockchain. They are the first and only hotel in the world that are actually operating or will be operating fully cashless.
Yep.
But I understand that we're getting there from the regulatory perspective and maybe from the investment perspective as well. And yeah, so community is being, as you said, it's being with incubation and stuff. For investors, and this is I think the main focus why people are not investing, I think it's a lack of awareness. They are used to traditional investments.
Yes.
If I come to somebody and I pitch them this idea of real estate, building, whatever it is, they will fund me with $100 million.
Overnight.
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 and believe me, we've dealt with that, and it happens. But come to them, we are creating this kind of new thing, or it's a startup thing, and it's risky. Still, they don't really get that. So we need to build that awareness.
Yes.
We need to reach those people,
So
investors,
basically,
educate them.
they are both left high.
Yeah.
So did you have the similar experience, or because Sarwa was the first one
Yeah.
for award?
Yeah, Moneymal is just joining the cohort,
Yeah.
right?
Can I-
Did you
can I
have
share my
similar
experience?
or,
It's awesome.
But be honest, not because we're
No,
in the
I'm
DRC.
telling you
you're
the
gonna
honest
say
story.
all
So I'm from UK, so I've seen a different part of the world in terms of how the government organization operates, how the SMEs and the whole economy. So I had my doubt before starting my venture in this region. Few months back, I applied to DIFC, and they said, you got an amazing concept and you want to do something good, so come along. So they've accepted, and now they said they're going to open up the door for like 22 banks. They're going to let me contact the bureau. And guess what? The recent story, I got in touch with this lady over the weekend for a different matter, and she said, come along to this platform and tell your story. Now,
There you
this
go.
is what we're talking about, the support system.
Yeah, community is
So,
good.
so I'd like to frame both of their things
Yeah.
into context. When did Silicon Valley actually become Silicon Valley? In the 50s and 60s?
Yeah.
They've got a 50 to 60 year head start.
Sure.
We're catching up much faster in this region.
Yep.
Because the thing is, it's very fashionable to say that things aren't happening here, but credit to some people and the futurists out here who are perpetuating the cycle, like yourselves and yourself, to see things moving forward at pace. Otherwise, it might not be as quick, but it's happening.
Yeah,
And it's going to catch up maybe in 10, 15 years. I mean, how old is Kareem as a company?
yeah,
And it's not even had an exit yet.
yeah.
I mean, Souk.com was the first major exit. Maktub, I think, with Yahoo was the first real exit, which no one had even heard about.
Yeah, 10 years
So
ago.
the journey is really starting, but it's going to speed up. And with things like the UAE and Saudi and everything that's happening in Lebanon, Jordan, coming together,
Yeah.
we're on the right path.
Final word.
I don't know if I want to finish with this, but the only difference will be in Silicon Valley you have pictures of how Google started, how Apple started in the garage. In Dubai it will be in a villa on the palm. That's probably the only, that's why it's been so hard for innovation. So
That's so true,
I'm
and-
so happy that the accelerators are starting and everything.
The
'cause
accelerator
they make
DIST
it-
Hive, I mean, by the time he's doing something good, the consultants would be selling to you and they'll be selling real estate to you, right? So there you go.
You're building your money more.
Absolutely. So,
Actually, D-Tech is doing an amazing job as well. Well
Yeah.
done.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Big hand
yeah.
to D-Tech, yeah.
Yeah. We're all actually based out of D-Tech. I
Yeah,
mean, at least
D-Tech
we're too
based.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. To be anywhere else, yeah. Exactly.
The only place that will take us in. Thank you.
Super. So thank you very much for this discussion, and I will end with what we started with. We've got technology, but where's my heart? The future, ladies and gentlemen, is about heart. The future is about trust, ethics, values, and empathy. This is the kind of thing that if we lose track of this and get lost in the noise and the whole process, we are, it's finished for us, effectively.
Yeah.
For the AI is not, I mean, we as human beings are not the leaders of the world because we're the fastest, biggest, or the strongest, but because we're the smartest. And if we start giving away that lead or smartness, that is really game over for us. And AI is a completely different conversation. But at this point in time, it's even more important to actually build heart, build our mind, build our thinking and our intelligence over and above, and be more human as opposed to more technical. And I think we really need to tilt the other way a little bit before we come back to the middle, to that balance. So on that note, I would say these are the pillars, this is the future, this is how we need to think, and this is how a lot of you guys are thinking. I congratulate the startups, because I am an advanced startup myself, and I know the pain and I know the fun. So kudos to you. Thank you for you to support us. Thank you for you to inspire us with crazy shit. Sorry. And thank you to the audience who stuck it out, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Big hand for these people.